I felt that similarly on Cobra Kai. There was a moment where me and the guy I do a lot of my scenes with, Barrett Carnahan, where we're just sitting there and went like, this is really cool.
Hey, I'm Gemma, host of I Don't Know What We're Talking About and the person behind Gemma Watches Stuff. Here's how this show works. One guest, 5 topics, one surprise selection, and absolutely no script. Just pure, fun, chaotic conversation. This episode, I'm hanging out with Nick Marini. You may recognise him from Cobra Kai or even Chicago Med. We talked about his acting career, what life was like growing up, and spent a lot of time talking about his dog. So if you're a fellow pet lover, this one is definitely for you. Let's go. Hello, my name is Gemma from Gemma Watches Stuff, and this is the podcast I Don't Know What We're Talking About, where we have crazy conversation, chaotic chit-chat about all sorts of random things, and I'm joined today by Nick Marini. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing excellent. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on today, and I am really excited about today's episode with you. It's going to be a good one.
I'm excited myself.
You sent me 5 topics, and that's how this podcast works. We've been
Hmm.
Instagram, DMing, and emailing back and forth, getting everything sorted. And before today, you sent me a list of 5 different things, and I love your list. It's really random, and there are some really cool, like funny ones. There are some deep topics. You sent me a really like broad range of stuff that we could dig into today.
Yeah,
So that's pretty cool. Now, the way this works is the only premise I gave you, the only instruction I gave you was to send through 5 topics of something that you could talk about comfortably for 45 minutes to an hour or so.
yeah.
And I must say, the list is pretty cool. You did a great job.
Well, I appreciate that.
Um, I this one's really hard because sometimes I get 5 topics sent from a guest and I'm like, oh, that's the one, that one right there, that's what we're doing.
Hmm.
Yours was not that. Your
Ooh,
your list has got me like, all right, there's a few different ways we could go here. But I think if we manage to smash out more than one topic on the list, that's going to be totally okay.
okay.
But I think we should definitely start with how your dog saved your life.
I thought that might be the one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. I've picked well then.
Um, how my dog saved my life. Well, um, I think that the only way to begin that story, which is really many stories, I think, some both literal and some figurative, uh, is to just sort of say that growing up, the only thing I ever really, the only thing I was not raised in any religion, wasn't sort of that wasn't. I went to a Quaker school, but the only thing I ever like bent my knee and prayed to the universe for was for a dog. Um, and all of my stuffed animals growing up were dogs. There was a big bunny and there's a little raccoon, but mostly they're dogs. And I always wanted a dog. And my parents had told me that I could get a dog uh, when I was 5. And right around that time, we ended up moving, and uh, we were moving from Philadelphia to New York, and it was my parents were going through just a tumultuous time at the theater company that they had been running. There's some like bad stuff had happened there where the guy who was doing the finances had like stolen all the money, and it was just like a really hectic time in life. And so it was like, this is not the time to get a dog. Um, and so we didn't get a dog, and I like understood we were moving to New York. It was like a lot of changes going on,
How old were you at
and
the point, though? Because you just said you were 5. So were you still
yeah, 5.
and you understood that, oh, it's okay. I understand things are going on and I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I was raised. One of my other subjects was sort of growing up backstage of theaters. I was raised very much like around my parents at work. Um, so I think like I wasn't like a lot of times people will be like, "Oh, remember this television show?" And I'm like, I know I work in the entertainment industry, but I actually like didn't really grow up with a television, and so like I think I've always had a level of communication with my parents that was just like, you have to be well behaved, or else like you can't be backstage. Like there was just a lot of things where like we had to have a level of rapport between us and understanding that I think is a little atypical sometimes. Um, but so we moved to New York, and when I was 7, uh, my my parents were in the midst of a divorce, and we were also once again sort of about to move. And I convinced them to let's. What if we just went to the pound and looked at dogs? And the moment that they were like, okay, I was like, oh, there's no way I'm not getting adopted. I was like, I'm like, this is happening. I think it's finally happening. And we went, and there were these very cute two little brown like chocolate labs. I think they were probably, or they might have been like a little bit of a smaller, but they were like clearly siblings. They were in the same sort of cage. It was at the Bidewee no kill shelter in Manhattan, and and they were very cute. And one of them was sort of asleep in his water bowl, and I was like, oh, these dogs are cute, but like there's like no way I'm getting two dogs. Like I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't want to like separate them. I'd want them to go together if they could. And I also remember just sort of this feeling of like they're very cute, but they're not. That's not my dog. And then I looked up, and in the cage above them, looking down, was Max. And if you know, like Bernese Mountain Dogs, they're like the way that the white with the mostly black and some brown, and like always have like a white little ridge. And Greater Swiss Mountain Dogs are the short-haired version of those. And Max was a mutt, but he had those markings. So we call him a lesser Swiss Mountain Dog. And he was looking down, and it just was instantaneous. I just looked up and I went, "Oh, that's my dog." And we took him out, and it was just like we instantly took to each other. And uh, I think my mom had to go to maybe I think she had to go to a performance. Um, and so my dad and I remember also that like they were like, "What are you gonna call him?" And I was like, "I don't know." And one of the women who worked at the shelter was like, "Max is a good name." And I was like, "Yeah." And I remember my dad being like, "You don't need to, you can call him whatever you want." And I was like, "Max, Max, this feels right." And I can't remember if I think my mom might have been with us actually. We all took the subway back to our little apartment in Hell's Kitchen, and they had given us a towel that we still have. Um, that was a red and blue towel with like a lobster. So lobsters have been sort of my symbol for my love for Max ever since. I have a little lobster tattoo with a paw print on it. Um, and and I think just like in a time where there was a lot going on for all of us, he really just brought this energy, and this he was just such an adorable puppy. He had those big paws, and we used to play this game in our apartment because it was sort of like the kitchen entrance, the kitchen, the bathroom, like sort of like hallway slash my bedroom, because it was like it's one of those weird New York apartments that's very long, or not very long, but it was long. So it was like the living room was my parents' bedroom. They had a futon, so we would like there was a big pathway that you could sort of go the whole run of it, and it was wood, and so we would get a blanket and pull him all across the apartment, and it just brought uh, a lot of joy. And then um, when we moved up to Riverside, up in like 125th Street in New York, and and I used to be a very good climber. I'd gone to a school in Philadelphia called the Mequon School, where you're encouraged to climb trees and run around, and you have to bring an extra pair of clothes because you're always getting dirty.
Cool.
and I was climbing a fence in New York. Max was maybe 6 months to a year, I would bet. And I was climbing this fence, and I was very cocky about it. It was like a chain link fence. I was walking on the bar, and I had my hands in my pockets, and my shoelace got stuck on one of the pieces of the, it was a chain link fence, and I started to fall. And because my shoes laces were stuck, I was just pivoting. I was just rotating, and my hands were in my pockets. And my mom saw it happen. And so all she saw was her son with his head hurtling towards the cement, just pivoting, the worst way to do that. And I felt something soft, and then I hit the ground, and Max had dashed under me and broke my fall. And watching, for me, it was sort of, it happened so fast. It was I don't think it was like, it wasn't honestly that scary for me, because I think it was like, oh, whoa, okay, I'm fine. I'm in seven, so like whatever. Um, but I think for my mom, she was watching her son maybe have some really severe damage to his head, and watching, she was always very kind to Max. She loved our dog, but watching a mom take care of an animal that in her eyes maybe saved her son's life, like the moment he got sick, it was chicken and rice. Like it was really cool to watch a mother's a mother's deep appreciation sort of take root in that moment. um and because I was often at school, like they had as big a relationship as we did, even though he mostly slept in my bed. So that was how he sort of literally saved my life.
He like, yeah, really like physically, especially because if you had your hands in your pockets, like if you're up on
Yeah,
things with your hands in your pocket, you had no way to brace yourself or like fall
yeah, no,
still or
I had
roll,
no
or
chance.
there was no option for you. It was like head on the pavement, like
Yeah,
some,
it was head on the pavement and probably feet still in the air.
yeah, that's some serious
Yeah,
damage. Like that could have been, yeah, 10 times more disastrous. Obviously, you're fine.
yeah,
Obviously, there was
yeah, yeah. Well, you
did you
know,
walk away with any scratches, anything? Like no broken
I think,
bones?
like, I think we probably went up and like iced me just in case, but I was a very active kid, so I was always getting dinged up one way or another.
Yeah, the kind of kid
Um,
just get up and walk away and be like, yeah, I'm fine. It's fine.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Um, but the really cool part about it is, uh, my mom and I then ended up moving to DC, where she was going to grad school. And we had just moved in. We were living in this little apartment in Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And sorry if there's a weird noise outside. There's a cheerleading team in the local park screaming right now. Um, but we were we were we were at the park with my dog in this new park. Sort of, I think we had been there a week. I had like met one person at soccer practice that seemed cool, and we were very new to the city. And my mom was like just starting to go to grad school, a 1 year program. She was one of the first 18 people in the US to get her master's degree in classical acting in the US. So it was like, they're doing Shakespeare, they're doing stage combat, they're doing clown work, they're doing like really intense program. And it was the three of us. So she was really doing a lot at the time. And because we'd come from New York, where they play handball. You know what that is?
Yep. Yep.
Like
Yep.
and they have those little blue balls that are a little bit smaller than a tennis ball.
Mhm.
And we were throwing that for Max, and we saw him get it, and then sort of like something was wrong, and it got stuck in his throat, and it was clogging his airway, and he was choking to death. And so, we run over. I'm probably 8 at the time. I'm freaking out, and I think I turned 9 that year. And my mom is just like, there's so much has been going on. We just moved. Like, it's like I cannot let this dog die right now. And she 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 was like giving him the Heimlich maneuver and trying to get, she was like reaching her hand down his throat, and he sort of passed out. And she managed to get it out. And he was like breathing, but kind of unconscious. And some people saw and came rushing over. And in the process of just him, you know, going through this whole thing, he broke her hand just because she had her hand down his throat, and he was just, and so like like we call the one friend, thank thank goodness for the Millennics. We called this family that we had met at soccer practice, who were the only people we knew, and they came and got me, and this really cool guy who worked at NASA and had these two amazing dogs took Max, and my mom was rushed off to the hospital, and but because when Max sort of came to, this guy was there. Every time he saw the guy, he was like, my savior. And my mom is like in this cast being like, no, dude, I saved you. This guy was just there when you woke up. And it was just this very funny, but she was a real hero in that moment.
Not
And
according to Max, though.
no, not according to me. Yeah, Max had no idea what a hero she was. Well, he knew in other ways. Um, but yeah, he was just like, when we moved after that year in DC, we moved back to Philly, and my dad lived around the corner from where we lived for a long period. And every morning, it's still in, we sort of lived in the edge of Philadelphia. It's still Philadelphia, still the city, but sort of the edge of the city. And this beautiful little neighborhood called Mount Airy. And every morning before I went to school, my mom would open the door and Max would walk out, and he'd walk around the corner, and there was a little coffee shop that my dad had built all the furniture for. And so he would walk over and meet my dad and hang out with the guys at the coffee shop. And just he was always off leash, and the whole neighborhood knew him, and he was just like the neighborhood dog. And when he was ready to come back in, he'd walk back to our house and give my mom this little yip, and she'd open the door, and he was uh he was the best. He was like, I think that there are, I mean, I love all dogs. But I think that there are some dogs that are, there's a depth when you look at them in the eyes. There's an understanding, and he just was that kind of dog. Like, people just were really drawn to him and felt really safe with him. And he taught me, I think, one of my favorite life lessons, which was I had an uncle, a great uncle on my dad's side, who was like a real trickster, just like a good old boy from North Carolina who would, on his speedboat, and you'd be like, I didn't know you had a crab trap out here, and he's like, I do now. And he was just like, he wasn't malicious, but he was sort of like the stereotypical like getting away with it. And he grew hot peppers, and he'd slip them in your burger when you weren't looking, and just a real prankster, real lovely human. And Uncle Bobby Scott. And he he passed away, and I was really he was one of my favorite relatives. And I remember crying in my room, and Max walked in, and he looked at me with just all the empathy that one being can have for another, and just went and farted. And was like it was like you're right. Like, Uncle Bobby would so much rather me be laughing about that than crying about losing him. And it was just this really, I was like, Max, you're right. You're right. And he was a really special pup. A really special pup.
I love the fact that you you kept the name Max. Like, she wrote, like, at the very beginning. Like, it's such
Yeah.
classic dog
Yeah,
name, and it evokes all of those feelings of what you're describing as like you've just described every boy's perfect dream pet, like everybody's perfect dream pet. Like that's the kind of
yeah,
relationship people want with their dog. Like that's
yeah,
so beautiful and so amazing. And it, like what you were talking about, the moment when you look in the eyes and you just know that that unconditional love that you get from a dog, and like how you
yeah.
describe your relationship with Max is like what everybody dreams of. Kids
I
when they want a pet dog, that's what they want. And Max
yeah,
is just such the like the quintessential dog name. And
yeah,
the way
yeah, yeah,
then describe that you were like fortunate enough to have, it's gonna
yeah.
make me cry. It's beautiful. Everybody
No,
wants a
he.
pet like that.
I was very, very fortunate. We were very fortunate. And he was just. My mom always jokes because you said like it really was sort of the quintessential boy and his dog. Like once I became a teenager and started like going to parties, he was like, "What? Why am I getting left behind? What's going on?" Like we always have the sleepover. I'm always in the mix. Um, but apparently, when I was little, I sort of vaguely remember this. I had found this because I've always been a huge like Dungeons and Dragons nerd and all that stuff. And love. I think I yelled at not yelled, but I think I brought up with my mother at one point that I was very disappointed that she hadn't had the foresight to birth me in England because it meant I could never be a knight. And she was like, "Yes, Nick, because I would have known that's what you wanted before you were born." And I was like, "Ah,
Oh, of course.
that's a good point. I'm still a little annoyed, but it's a good point." Um, but apparently, I had found this. I remember the stick. I had found this like incredible stick that sort of like it was like clearly a weird growth, and so the bark it was like round and came down to like a really so it looked like sort of like a fireball. Like it was a really
Yeah, I can
it
see
was
it.
like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was before that whole like stick Instagram thing became big. And so, but otherwise, I would have been like, yo, this stick right here is a top stick find. Um, but I was holding as a staff, and I apparently looked at Max and just went, "Come, my familiar," and like marched out of the house. And my mom was just watching the two of us go to the woods or whatever. Like, okay, and this little nerd and his dog.
I love it. I think that's that's amazing. And I think having a pet and having a dog is such a universal thing. And like everything you've described and the feelings and the relationship that people have with their pets. And I mean not just dogs, it goes beyond dogs as well. But just it's it's kind of like it even sounds stereotyped, and you see like all the movies that have dogs in it or the relationship that characters have with their dogs,
Yeah,
every movie or TV show ever. But it is that way for a reason because it's so true. Like it's so real and it's such a universal experience. Like
yeah,
I'm on the other side of the world in Australia and I understand exactly what you're talking about. Like I grew up with a dog as well, so like I get it. And I think
amazing.
there's people out there that will hear that story and just be like, it will take them back instantly to their childhood pet or their
Yeah,
dog that they that's still with them, and they just completely understand all of the feelings that you've just been able to express. And I think
yeah,
it's such a universal thing in how we love and we care for our animals, we care for our pets, and
yeah.
it's amazing.
What kind of dog did you have?
I had a Siberian Husky.
Ooh, lovely.
Big, fluffy. I
Yeah.
was not very good at handling. We named him Dusty because he was a light brown, because you get the blacks and the different shades of grey, and so he
Mhm.
was like this really deep red, and so it always looked like he'd been rolling around in the dirt. Again, growing up in Australia,
Yeah, yeah.
red dirt, dust. And so he always looked like he'd been rolling around in the dirt, even when he was clean. And his whole top, and he had this little diamond on his nose, very like husky. They have different, facial markings and things. But he
Mhm.
had a diamond shape on his like nose and really beautiful deep red color. And he was huge. He was so huge. And I just remember as a kid growing up, he was so huge, and I was never good at handling him. He would never listen to me. He was never a rat bag. He was always like, him and my brother were
Yeah.
like this. Him and my brother were like this, and he would obey. My brother was younger than me, and he still listened to him more than he ever listened to me. And like my dad as well, he just connected with the boys, and I tried very much to connect, but it was my brother's dog. It was my dad's dog.
Mm.
I loved him very
Yeah.
much, and there,
Yeah.
there were cute moments when I would be like sit or go to feed him, and then all of a sudden I'm his favorite person for a good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. You're like, oh, now you
oh, now you're like,
listen.
now we're good. But yes, everyone should, my opinion, everyone, if they have the opportunity, should grow up with a dog. Kids should have a
Yeah.
cat or a dog or at least a fish, like something
Yeah.
to have that connection with, have that relationship with. I think that's super important. And also to teach, I think responsibility as well is another big thing. Like,
Yeah.
even though it wasn't my dog, like he was my dog. He was the family dog. He was my dog.
Yeah.
I loved Dusty. He was so big, so fluffy, and summers were awful because the shedding and the
Oh
hair went
yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I loved him. But like the responsibility of taking it in turns to feed him and making sure he was clean and taking him to the vet and checkups and all of these things was, I think, a really important lesson to learn. And even though I didn't have a lot of that responsibility because Dusty clearly had the favorite family members and it was not me, he, it was still really important to learn that lesson and then also to have the relationship like you were talking about, to have that deep relationship, to be able to look at him and, when he would look at me with those big eyes when I'm holding his food and like I was the
Yeah.
most important person in his world right then. And that's such an amazing experience. I'm like a strong believer that kids should grow up if they can and are fortunate enough
Yeah.
to have that opportunity to have a pet. 100%.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree wholeheartedly.
Mm. I'm going to swing back though to something you mentioned before, in that you're a big nerd. So we might change the
Hmm.
topic a little bit here. I'm going to derail you for a minute, but that's what we're all about on this podcast.
Yeah.
We're all over the place. So I'm going to derail you for a minute about Max, and we might swing back. But you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons. You're a big nerd, and I'm going to ask. You've been fortunate enough to be involved with Critical Role.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that experience and how that came around?
Yeah. Um, so cool. It was I someone one time asked me, they were like, how do you, like I'm interested in that stuff. Like, how would you recommend, getting involved? And I was like, well, it's gonna be totally useless because what I did was I went to the Wayfinder Experience LARPing camp with Brennan Lee Mulligan at age 12, and we've been fast friends ever since. He's one of my nearest and dearest. Um, yeah, so my older brother is 12 years older, so he sort of introduced me to like Magic the Gathering and White Wolf and Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse, which of course being werewolves I was instantly drawn to. Um, and he gave me all his Lego and his Batman and his He-Man. So a lot of my nerd, when you're a little brother, especially, he's technically my half brother, but he's my brother. And but 12 years is like everything. He's sort of being like, I'm not, I don't care about this anymore. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, yeah, I'll take it. Like, oh my God. Um,
You
so
had
I think, and I was
the best
always,
hand me downs, the best hand me
yeah,
downs. Because by the
yeah.
time
Oh,
12
it
years
was
is a
like,
good
yeah,
gap. Yeah, 12
yeah.
years is a
It
good gap.
was
So by the time he's
he,
lost and you had later
yeah,
scrap,
he couldn't care about those
yeah,
action figures,
yeah,
and I'm like, these rock.
yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, I've got all the cool stuff. Um, yeah, so I mean, I was always into knights and stuff like that. My parents are both in the theater, so sort of classical storytelling. And I think Dungeons and Dragons, when I first started playing it, I mean, I started playing in very early on. Um, I think around second grade is some of my earlier memories of it. I can't remember. I know I was definitely playing in fourth grade, but I sort of like bits and pieces. I was beginning to get introduced to it, and then a friend of ours from Mequon, this wonderful school in the woods that I will never not mention because it's, I think, the best school I've ever been to. And I've been to a few. Um, but one of the kids, his babysitter, was one of the owners of the Wayfinder Experience, which is this LARPing camp. And so for his birthday that year, they brought a bunch of foam swords, and we played capture the flag with foam swords. And I've always been like half nerd, half athlete. And so I was like, this is everything I could ever want. I can run around and sword fight and pretend to be a knight. Sign me up.
Yeah.
And there's actually a great photo because we used to in Clark Park in West Philadelphia, we used to do capture the flag all the time. And so uh, people they would just be like on a nice walk, and you'd look over and there's like 50 kids dueling with foam swords. But my mom brought Max one time, and someone went to hit me, and Max ran up and ripped the foam sword out of their mouth and ran away with it. And I was like, yeah. um, but but so it turned out that that guy who was introducing us uh, was one of the owners or founders of Wayfinder, and so that's how I got involved and ended up going. There was supposed to be a Philadelphia camp, and uh, and there weren't enough people that signed up for it. And so, and I think we had like we were maybe gonna go, but it was like I don't know. It's like money's like it's a little expensive or whatever. I can't remember why we like I was available, but we made the decision like maybe we don't go. And they were like, "There's not enough people signed up. We're gonna take the four kids who did, and we're gonna take them to upstate New York, where the main camp is." And so we heard that, and we're like, "If we signed up today, though, could we go there too?" And they were like, "Yeah, whatever, come on." And so I remember hopping in this car with these two camp counselors in Philadelphia. Um, One of them, T. Gray, was just an incredible artist and dancer and beautiful human, um, who is unfortunately no longer with us. But they were sitting in the front seat, and I was like, that person is really cool. And then they fell asleep. They slept in the front seat of the car the whole time, and I was like, man, I really wanted to like, when you're a little kid, you're like, I was probably at this time I must have been 12, and it's like you just want the older cool kid to like. And so I was like, oh, that person's really cool. And we get up to upstate New York, and it's like a camp of like, I mean, at that time there was at least 100 people, if not more, that are all going to participate in this like weekend long LARP. And the way they do it is like it's different every time, so it's a different story. And the story that year was there's this like human empire, and there's this like ancient wood that no one has ever come out. Explorers go in, no one ever comes out. And one day this explorer comes out, and he's like, yo, like there are elves in, and like it's this elven kingdom, and they're like, here's an elf, like our two peoples can trade, and like and it was like it was amazing, and they were like they became one peoples, and elves and humans all living in this. And then one day one of the humans was like, so like a lot of the a lot of our government are lifetime appointments, and elves don't aren't dying, are they? And are they just like slowly taking over our kingdom? And the elves were like, yep, you finally figured it out, shrink, and like totally conquered humanity. And so we were playing as the rebels. We were playing as like these human rebels trying to overthrow these like elf tyrants. And and T Gray ended up being like my rebel leader. And this is in upstate New York, where we're like we because we were rebels, and like basically at this point humanity was like enslaved by the elves. So like we didn't have weapons. We had like I think our crew had like we had like a bow with one arrow, a short sword, a knife, and like some like clubs, which are just like pieces of foam. And so we're like we've heard some rumor of like an ancient battleground nearby. And if we can go find it, maybe we can like dig up some ancient weapons and be able to defend ourselves. So we're moving. It's winter, upstate New York, in the forest, snow everywhere, and we're walking through the snow, and we're all walking silently, and T Gray is leading us. And T Gray just goes. And we all stop. And T Gray, they point, and on a little hill, backlit by the moon, is a stag just watching us walk through the woods at night. And 12-year-old me was just like, this is so epic. This is so cool. And I just like I was already sort of in. on the whole thing. And then that happened, and Tigray just like see like because we were all like and Tigray was much more aware of the surroundings and they it was just this incredible moment. And then many years later, uh, I'd been going to Wayfinder. That's where I became sort of really good friends with Brennan. We ended up in a 15-year long D&D campaign together that I only joined because I was young enough. I was old enough to be on my own, to be traveling on my own, but young enough that they sort of wanted someone to keep an eye out for me. And he was like, I think like when I was a camper, he was a staff in training, and when I was a staff in training, he was a counselor, and then we were counselors together. But this was when I was probably a staff in training, and so I had to stay with them for a night, and they were playing D&D, and they were playing this campaign that, and I was listening to them talk about it like it's pretty cool, and they were like, "Do you want to play? Just like, do you want to like just play a guest session tonight with us?" And I was like, "Yes, of course." And it just I sort of slotted in my character, sort of slotted in so well to their group that after the session they were like, I think you have to come back next time we play. So for years I was like traveling from Philly to New York to play D&D once or twice a month with the crew. And then uh, Dimension 20 took off for Bren, and we I moved out here, he moved out here a little shortly after, out to LA. And so we were, it was like really nice to have one of your best friends nearby, and I got to sort of watch his whole thing blow up. Um and then when it came time for him to dungeon master Downfall for Critical Role, he I got a text from him and just said, check your email. And it was an email from Critical Role, and I was like yeah, like I was visiting my dad in Philly, and I was dancing around the house, and he goes, what'd you book? And I was like, oh, I'm and it's just one of my prompts, I think, that I had said was the importance of play. And so to just get to play with him again, it's funny because in some ways it's like it's easier for us. He's so busy that it's like it's easier for me to play with him on something like that sometimes than it is for us to try and schedule like a D&D session with our friends, as much as we try to do that as well. um, but yeah, that was an incredible experience. The Critical Role group is so welcoming. I had met Matt. So Matt and Marisha had seen Tigray's their installations at Burning Man, and I had been going to this music festival, Lightning in a Bottle, which is sort of Burning Man light to some extent. Um, and I was there, and there was I walking out of the crowd was Tigray, and I was like, oh, I found them again, and so I know like if Tigray is here, I know that this is a good place. And there's so many interesting. My There was one year at Lightning in a Bottle that my grandmother passed the night I arrived, and it was expected. We knew it was coming, but she passed the night I got there. And Tigray's art installation that year was called Grandmother's Hut, and it was just one of those moments where you're like, this human has, we're friends, but it's not like we came and we were part of the same communities. We always loved each other, and whenever we were together, there was that love. But it wasn't like we were on a day-to-day basis, like texting or anything like that. But it was just one of those moments where art just feels so personal, even though it's for everyone. And Tigray had made some installations that had really moved Matt and Marisha, and I when Tigray passed, I had just gotten back from their funeral, and was at an event without that just through some other people, and Matt and Marisha happened to be there. And this was pre-downfall, pre all that. And I was like, oh, we met briefly. Like, I'm Nick. I'm one of Brennan's buddies. Like, we met through him and yada yada. And he was like, oh, like you were just with him, right? And he's like, I'm so sorry. Like, he was he was an incredible artist. And then we talked about that for a little bit. And then he was like, you're in Brennan's like 15-year long D&D game, right? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, I heard you guys had like a crazy battle with this like the big bad, and like, can you chat like, and suddenly I'm like, there's a moment where I was like, is Matt Mercer asking me about my D&D game? Like, that's crazy.
Also,
That's like a really
wild.
surreal moment.
Yeah.
Um, so when I got asked to do Downfall, I felt very like I was walking into a community of people that felt very like-minded and open and empathetic and kind. And I felt very honored that that's not a small thing to trust me with, because I wasn't just playing D&D on Critical Role. I was playing the Dawn Father during a momentous moment in Exandrian history. And, you know, it was my first actual play ever. I played tons of D&D, but it's very different doing it on screen. And,
Sure.
I'm an actor, but it's not, it's just different. Even when you're LARPing, you're like, it's a little more visceral. You're in it. You're, covered in dirt and paint and foam weapons. Um, but to just get to be trusted by them to play in their universe and to help shape their universe, and to play such a pivotal character in their universe, uh, was just so fun. And so it was such an honor. And I am so excited for campaign 4. It's what, October 2nd, so we're only a couple weeks away from getting to see what they're cooking up. And I couldn't be prouder of Bren. Couldn't be prouder of that whole crew. Getting to see Abria join, and it's just it's an awesome it's an awesome group of people that are going to be doing that. And the fact that I like even know them and got to play in their universe is like, you know, it's the fun part about sort of being an actor, being in the entertainment industry, is every once in a while you sort of, I felt that similarly on Cobra Kai. There was a moment where me and the guy I do a lot of my scenes with, Barrett Carnahan, where we're just sitting there and went like, this is really cool. I can't believe we're here. And like, there's the Karate Kid, and there's Johnny, and there's like, oh my God. Like, um, so it's just fun. It's fun to get to play with your friends
I think,
and tell stories.
yeah, you've had such an amazing experience, and I can hear in how you're talking about it how much that's like shaped you and impacted you, and the honestly the love and respect that you have for it comes out when you talk about it, and you're clearly very passionate about it, and I love it. But it's really cool to hear through all of your experiences, really, and how you landed on Critical Role, and like the process and how that happened is all through just the people that you've met and the friendships that you've made, and like being in the
Yeah.
community, and that's really really awesome.
And I think that it's very interesting, and because you're totally right. And and there's a lot of there's like that the nepo baby going around in the industry, and the truth is, it's as true as it isn't. It's always a case by case basis. It's always that kind of stuff. Like, having parents in the industry, like, even if they can't open doors, they know they can tell me which ones to knock on and not knock on. They know what agency is good and what agency isn't, because they have 50 friends at 50 agencies. And there's so many advantages that are just knowledge even. Um, but also there's, I for me, the most important thing is my friendship. And um, I feel very fortunate that I have such a deep friendship deep friendships, not just with people in the entertainment industry, with my friends from Mequon and my friends from high school and my friends from college. I those are those are my family, and those are my the people who I love dearly, and and it's when someone you love and respect says they want you to be involved with something, it really uh, is exciting and terrifying and exhilarating, and you don't want to let them down, and you also don't want to ever pressure them to, like, it's like I said, like, it's like the most important thing to me is my friendship with those people, and any time I get to work with them is that's exciting, but it's also just exciting because, like, I get to see one of my best friends more because he's busy as hell. And so if I get to do something with him, it's just really an excuse to hang out with my buddy.
Yeah.
And and the fact that uh, Critical Role and Brennan and the Critical Role team and Matt and Marisha and you know the whole Laura Tallison, just everyone I got to work with, Ashley, uh, uh, who are all on Downfall. Um, it just the fact that they let me in was really they didn't have to do that, and the fact that they saw something in me or heard something about me that indicated to them that I was uh, that I was good people, and they could trust to come into this universe and treat it with love and respect was amazing. And I know that, like, getting to meet, like, that whole crew was just it was just like such an honor, and they're all so cool, and, like, I don't know, I just like getting to meet Sam and Travis and Liam, and, like, all people who I hadn't really interacted with, but it was just so fun and so cool, and they're all such amazing people. And yeah, it's been it's fun to get to play with people who take play seriously, and who are as passionate about storytelling as I am. Obviously, all I've been doing this whole time is telling stories.
I love it. It's
And
fantastic. I think you've touched on something like really important as well, which I want to highlight because I think you're 100% correct. If somebody you admire and respect and you've built that relationship with, that friendship with, are like, hey, I've got this project and I think you'd be a great fit. Like, you're good people. Like, you're a great fit. Come and do this. Come and work with me. The emotion then that carries for you is going to be huge because you already respect them because you care about them and you're passionate
yeah,
about that. So then all of those feelings that you have towards them and how much you respect them and admire them as a person, all of that good stuff is going to come into the project. Then you're going to be bringing all
yeah,
of that good stuff with you, like, oh,
yeah,
that's so cool, I look up to them, I admire them, I love what they're building, the community they're creating, I want to be in on that, that's great. And then you get that invite or that opportunity to come and like step into that world and be a part of it. All of those feelings that you have about how cool they are, how amazing they are, how awesome that
yeah,
experience is going to be, how much you respect them and their work, that is what you're going to then put into that work. I
yeah.
love that.
And
So I
it's
love
such
that.
an yeah, it's such a fun and interesting experience because it really is like I just got to Dead, which is Izzy Rowland's new movie, that I'm in, which is a brilliant film that she wrote and stars in, and her whole family are in it. They all play her own family members. And if you have a chance, it's independent. It's just bug your local movie theater, and it went from 15 to over 100 movie theaters uh, as of a few days ago. So it could be way more than that now. Um, but that was the same thing. We've known each other for a long time, and there was a role that was right for me, and when someone just calls you out of the blue and says, like, hey, I'm doing this thing, and you don't want to be a part of it. It's just it's really exciting and really, in that particular case, she was like, "Do you want to be the comedic relief character in my movie?" And I was like, "Your movie, you, one of the funniest people I know, with who, and your husband's going to be in it, who is also one of the funniest people I know, and then your whole family who are all professional comedians, and then all your friends who are all like professional dropout comedians, and you want me to come in here and be funny?" like, like, I'll do it, but oh my God. And
As if you would say no. As if anybody would
as if I would ever say
be
no.
like, nah, that's not for
Um,
me, no thanks.
but it's funny because I think, there's a lot of like people talk about like imposter syndrome. And it's funny because I don't, with acting, I feel very comfortable. Like if I'm walking onto a stage, I feel very comfortable. If I'm walking into a film set, I feel pretty comfortable. Comedy is just I think I can be very funny, and I have done comedy, so like clearly other people must think I can be funny. But it's not like I don't have that like itch that I always have to be funny. I'm very happy to just like cut right through something and get deep and get to the point. Um, and so the fact that people have asked me multiple times to be in things that are comedies, just like it, that is where I find some like doing improv. I'm just like, which is exciting and fun, and it's probably the right direction to be going if it makes you a little nervous because that's where it's exciting and where
That's where growth
where
happens.
you're going to learn a lot. Yeah, it's where
Yeah,
growth exactly
yeah. When you're a
exactly.
little bit uncomfortable, you're a little bit anxious,
Yeah,
you're a little bit like, I don't
yeah,
know about this. That's when the biggest opportunities tend to open up, and that's when you learn the most, I think.
yeah. 100%, 100%.
We're nearly out of time, and I this has been absolute blast. I have enjoyed this immensely. But before I let you go, we have to play a game.
Oh yes, we were supposed to stop halfway through, weren't we?
No, that's fine. We're gonna look. I don't know what we're talking about. It's the kind of podcast where it just we go off the rails and it's a bit of fun and it's a bit chaotic.
No one has ever accused me of talking too quietly or too little.
That's what I want. That makes you the
Yeah.
perfect podcast guest. That's why this has been going so well. We're gonna play a game. It's called This or That.
This or that, it's time for this or that.
And basically, how that works is it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to give you a few different questions. We're going to go through four.
Okay.
And it's this or that. You just have to pick one
Okay.
and explain why you've chosen what you've chosen. It's very straightforward. And the first of the four questions I have for you today, I think these are pretty good for you today, actually. Movies at home or movies at the cinema?
Movies at home or movies at the cinema?
Correct.
I think. Ooh, that's a tough one.
Really difficult to
I
pick out the gate. Yeah.
Yeah, because I recently watched all three of the Lord of the Rings with my girlfriend back to back in one sitting, extended version with the whole like we made food,
That's a
and
lot.
that's like a serious that's a serious positive in the movies at home category because that was epic. I also just recently was with one of my best friends and their child at their very first movie theater experience, and watching her lose her mind was also pretty incredible. And I think that um, ultimately, the best movies bring people together, and I think the best place to bring people together is in a public place. So I will have to go. No, certainly no knock on cuddling up with your loved ones and watching all three Lord of the Rings or your choice of favorite movies. But I think I gotta go movie theater because there's also like that vibe when you watch something that really moves you, where there's like a bunch of other people and you sort of want to like you want to lean over and say like, that was you just want to have that little dialogue with someone else.
I think you're 100% right. And I think that there's something about reliving your favorite movies when you're comfortable in your own space, of course, there's something super just comforting and amazing about that. But getting to go to the cinema and experience something for the very first time, like the first experience of a brand new movie, that's pretty unique
Yeah,
as well. So well done.
yeah,
Question number two: hero or villain?
hero. Listen, uh, I mean, there's a million different like a hero. I told you I wanted to. I grew up wanting to be a knight. I mean, what is that? That's really just mean I want to be the hero.
The answer. Yeah.
Um, I used to want to be a diplomat, and I didn't do it because I realized it was a lot of just like desk and like arguing over the minutia of a trade deal, not like stopping World War III, which I thought was probably worth your time. Um, but that turns out that that's like not most of what being a diplomat is about. If you're having to do that as a diplomat, things are probably pretty bad. Um, but I think from an acting perspective, there's this sort of idea that like villains are more fun to play, which I think can sometimes be true, just from a like juicy, fun lines to say or like getting to do cool stuff. Um, but ultimately, I think that most people are the hero of their own story. Um, but also that if I've played characters that are, I don't know if I've ever really played like a heroic character. Now that I actually, well, in Dungeons and Dragons, I certainly have, but like on screen, I don't know that I actually really have. But I've played some characters that do some bad things, and I think my philosophy always with that is if someone can walk away and go like, is that me? Oh no. Like that's my hope when I play a villain is that, I mean, of course, if I was playing like a comic book villain, it's going to be a little different, right? But when you're playing like a truly reprehensible person, uh, uh, I think it can be an interesting acting experience to try and find why they're okay doing this, and or why they're doing it, not necessarily okay doing it, but why they're doing it. But also, yeah, I think heroes. We need more heroes these days. We need people who are willing to speak truth to power and willing to lead with kindness and empathy in their heart.
We need more heroes. I like it. Good answer. Question number three: road trip or a flight?
Road trip.
Oh, that was quick. You knew
Oh,
that. That was quick.
road trip. I love driving. I've driven. I drove from LA to Atlanta in 33 hours one time, which means I drove 18 hours straight, slept for three, and then drove another 12. I also drove when I moved to LA. I drove across the country. Recently was on an 8-hour road trip from Reno here. Uh, when you're there's so much stress when you're on a flight. Yeah, they're fast. Yeah, they're fast, but like you're in this big tube and there's other people that are stressed. When you're in a car, you're listening to your music, you're hanging out with your friends. You can, if you're alone, you can make some calls to some people you haven't talked to in a while and catch up. Road trip all the way.
The catch up.
And you can look outside and see beautiful scenery.
Yeah, that's it. But the catch up thing, that's always my go to for long road trips. I'm like, okay, I've
Yeah.
got time to kill because I have to drive. I have to be concentrated.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But I can catch up with people that I haven't had the chance to talk to in a
Yeah.
while. 100%. I love that one. Yeah. All right. Final question for you today. Always early or fashionably late?
Always early.
Oh, quick again.
My
That one.
my dad, well, I was forced to be always early, but I appreciate why. My dad was the assistant to Mr. Joffrey of the Joffrey Ballet, which is like a pretty big ballet. And he heard about the position, applied for it, and got it. And his first day, they're like, "All right, like we're doing the meeting here, take notes." And he's like, "I I don't even know how to spell the words you're saying because you're like I don't know anything about ballet." And like what is happening right now? And uh he asked Mr. Joffrey, he was like, "Mr. Joffrey, and someone else like took the notepad and just was like writing things down. He's like, "Why did you hire me?" And Mr. Joffrey said, "You were the only person who showed up early. I can teach you everything else. I cannot teach you that."
Wow.
And so I used to say when I was with my dad, I'd be like, could we just be 15 minutes early instead of half an hour early? But yeah, I tend to be like, if it's at, if like if I'm self-taping with my friends, shout out Tape House LA. If if I'm if I'm working with her, then if I'm set one, I'm like the knock on the door is at one, but I've been there for 15 minutes outside of my car. Yeah, always early. You got to respect people's time.
Yeah, that's it. 100%. I can't believe that story about your dad, though. Like, he
Yeah,
got the job because he's
yeah.
the only one who showed up
And
early.
you can't argue with that story.
No, like, I mean,
You can't be like, well, Dad, I'm just. He's like, no, son, let me learn you something. Um,
yeah, and I mean, time management, having good time management skills and time management practice is a very important thing.
and actors have a really bad reputation for being late, so I try to do my best to counteract that.
Yeah.
Although I did one time show up a week early for an audition.
Oh,
I
wait.
don't think that helped. So normally when you get an audition, like if you get an audition on if like the email comes in Monday and they're like, you got an audition at yada yada studio on Thursday, it's like for that Thursday. And I just didn't read the email well enough. And so I showed up and this woman is like, what are you here for? And I said it, she was like, oh honey, that's next Thursday. And I was like, well, I will know my lines.
You'll be extra prepared. You'll be very
I'll see you in a week. I'm so sorry.
How did that audition go the week later?
I did not get it. I did not get it. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Nick, thank you so much for your time today. This has been an absolute delight. Your stories are
Well,
incredible.
thank you.
You're a very good speaker, really engaging. And if people want to follow you or find out more about some of the projects you've done, obviously we've talked about Critical Role, Cobra Kai a little bit, get on Netflix.
Yeah.
If you want to go and check out more of your stuff or anything you've been working on, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram. It's probably the best place, Nick A. Marini. And yeah, deadthefilm.com is where you can find screenings all over the world at this point. I think they're in at least 5 countries now. And yeah, there's stuff coming, hopefully soon. And I will, if I may, leave you with a poem.
Oh, okay.
This is a poem that when Max passed away, a stranger left where he always used to lay down outside of the coffee shop. And it goes like this. Max, he needed few words. Quiet, gentle, noble in demeanor, handsome. He stuck up for himself and held his ground. He didn't ask much. He was safe with children, safe with anyone. He liked to lie here in the sun in the morning. He was so easy to love. He was always here. I miss you, Max. All the words in the world would not be enough.
Thank you
So
very
he
much.
wasn't just my dog. It was a lot of people's.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. That means so much.
And that's it for this episode of I Don't Know What We're Talking About. A huge thanks to Nick Marini for joining me. This was surprisingly sweet and genuinely wholesome with plenty of heartwarming memories and moments. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you listen. And don't forget, you can get early access and behind the scenes extras over on patreon.com/Gemma Watches Stuff. And hey, consider this a gentle reminder to make sure you look after yourself today, even if it's something small. I'll see you next time.